Welcome to Spectrum News at 10. I am Emedion James coming to you live from Uyo. Let's take a look at today's headlines. President Tinubu grants presidential pardon to Herbert Macaulay, 174 others. Federal government to distribute 5 million free reading glasses within next 3 years. Plus, Israel approves first phase of Gaza deal. We'll bring you details of the stories and more in just a moment. Many thanks for staying tuned. First in the news this morning is that President Bola Tinubu has granted a presidential prerogative of mercy to one of Nigeria's founding fathers, Herbert Macaulay, and 174 others across various categories. This comes after a presentation by the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi, who convened President Bola Tinubu's recommendations based on the report of the Advisory Committee on the Prerogative of Mercy at the Council of State meeting held in Abuja. Recall that Macaulay, often called the father of Nigerian nationalism, was twice convicted by the colonial authorities in Lagos for reportedly misappropriating funds from an estate he administered and sentenced to prison. Away from that, as part of its renewed commitment to tackle preventable blindness, the federal government has announced plans to distribute 5 million pairs of free reading glasses within the next 3 years. In addition, the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare has signed a 5-year Memorandum of Understanding (MOU) with the Foundation to strengthen comprehensive eye health services in Nigeria, focusing particularly on the refractive error treatment and capacity building to improve nationwide access to quality eye care. The Minister of State for Health and Social Welfare, Dr. Adekunle Saloko, who disclosed this during the 2025 World Sight Day commemoration in Abuja, reaffirmed the government's determination to improve eye health and reduce preventable blindness across Nigeria through the integration of primary eye care (PEC) into the primary health care (PHC) system and other targeted interventions. Saloko, who was represented by the ministry's Director of Hospital Services, Dr. Jimong Saludin, explained that refractive errors such as presbyopic remains the most common causes of visual impairment in Nigeria. He emphasized that a good vision is central to national development and individual productivity, noting that impaired sight can hinder education, reduce workplace efficiency, and slow their economic growth. In the meantime, the federal government, through the National Council for Arts and Culture (NCAC), has entered into a strategic partnership with the Center for the Study of the Economics of Africa (CSEA) to strengthen the economic foundations of Nigeria's creative and cultural industries. A statement by the agency notes that the collaboration is in line with the roadmap of the Minister of Arts, Culture and Tourism and the creative economy to position the sector as a driver of national development. It further noted that the partnership aims to rebase and provide true valuation of the creative sector's contribution to Nigeria's GDP, enhance economic analysis and data, and improve investment readiness across key industries such as film, music, dance, fashion, publishing, and literature, amongst others. Let's move now to the Green Chambers, where the House of Representatives has moved to prop money spent on the rehabilitation of the country's refineries. The House passed a resolution during the plenary following the adoption of a motion sponsored by Wingang. Wingang, while moving the motion, stated that the refineries in Port Harcourt, Warri and Kaduna have remained non-functional after over 2 decades of rehabilitation, despite billions of dollars spent on them, referencing President of the Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, who reportedly claimed $18 billion has been spent on rehabilitating the refineries. According to him, the prop should examine the utilization of all allocated funds and the effectiveness of rehabilitation efforts and identify any infractions, mismanagement or corrupt practices in the management of the assets. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has resolved to investigate the National Examination Council (NECO) over alleged irregularities in its budget implementation, internally generated revenue (IGR) utilization, and possible unauthorized verament between 2023 and 2025. The resolution follows the adoption of a motion of urgent public importance moved by Amobi Oga during plenary. Representing the motion, Oga noted that under sections 88 and 89 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, the National Assembly and its committees possesses the constitutional powers to summon or request documents from any government ministries, agency or parastatals for oversight purposes. He emphasized that as a revenue-generating agency, NECO has a duty to remain transparent and accountable to Nigerians, regardless its financial operations and remittance to the Federation account, expressing concern that NECO may have implicated verament without the necessary legislative approval, describing such actions as a possible breach of constitutional provisions and an affront to the oversight powers of the House. Following deliberations, the House mandated the Committee on Basic Education and Examination bodies to investigate the alleged verament, implementations, and financial activities of NECO from 2023 to 2025 and report back within 3 weeks for further legislative action. In a separate development, the Minister of Women Affairs, Dr. Iman Suleiman Ibrahim, has called for a collective action to protect the girl child from harm and abuse to enable her to achieve her dreams. She noted that every girl deserves a chance to dream, grow, and lead. The minister urged young Nigerians to become advocates of mentorship and progressive leadership. She stressed the need for a multi-sectoral approach to addressing issues about rape and gender-based violence. Away from that, former Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has called for a fundamental restructuring of Nigeria's legal and judicial philosophy, especially the tendency of courts prioritizing technicalities over substantive justice. Osinbajo, a professor of law, spoke in Ilorin at the second Prof. Yusuf Ali's annual lecture organized by the Kwara State University, Kwasu, Melate. The former vice president said the essence of any justice system is to serve the people, not to glorify procedural formalities. He expressed concern that many judicial decisions, including those of the Supreme Court, often lean towards form rather than substance. Osinbajo posted that Nigeria's continued attachment to outdated technicalities undermine justice and erode public trust in the judiciary. Let's move now to Africa, where thousands have gathered in the northern Cameroonian city of Maroa to show support for opposition candidate Issa Shiroma Bakari just days before the country's presidential election. Despite 92-year-old President Paul Biya's desire to extend his 43-year rule with an 8th term, Bakari said he is confident he can pull off an upset. Cameroon, a Central African nation of nearly 30 million people, continues to struggle with deep-rooted corruption and a deadly secessionist conflicts in its western regions. Biya's re-election bid comes amid widespread concerns about election credibility, with authorities often accused of favoring the ruling party. Still in Africa, for the 13th consecutive day, protesters have filled the streets of Morocco's capital, demanding sweeping reforms in jobs, housing, healthcare, and education. The Generation Z-led movement, which began in late September, has rapidly spread to major cities including Casablanca. The protesters said their calls for justice and dignity are beginning to resonate as government has acknowledged their demands and promised to take them into account. The demonstrators are also denouncing widespread corruption and criticizing the government for prioritizing international sporting events over essential public services. Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office say Israel has approved the first phase of the Gaza deal, which will lead to a ceasefire and the release of hostages. Under the agreement, Israel's military will partially withdraw from Gaza in 24 hours, while Hamas will have 72 hours to release all Israeli hostages, and Israel will release hundreds of Palestinian detainees. Reports say once the deal is operating, aid trucks will surge in to help Gaza's 2 million people, most of whom have been displaced. Russian missile and drone strikes have caused power cuts in large parts of Ukraine's capital, Kiev. The city's mayor, Vitaly Klitschko, said 9 people were injured, while residents in Eastern District were plunged into darkness and faced disruption to water supplies. According to the Ukrainian regional head, a 7-year-old child was killed in a separate Russian drone strike in the Zaporizhia area in the country's southeast. Reports say Moscow has escalated attacks on energy facilities over recent weeks, while Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has called for real steps from allies to apply pressure to Russia. Still to come in the news. Agagbe appointed NPFL under-19 head coach. Stay tuned for details of this in just a moment.
Broadening your horizon is what every living being not only genuinely desires, but heartily pursues and intentionally invests in. For in the gathering of men, only those whose minds are in tune with the dynamics of the past, present, and future innovations, inventions, politics, and governance are respected. We are Spectrum Television, and broadening your horizon is our obsession. Risk on your decoder now to connect Spectrum Spectrum Television on the frequency 12589, symbol rate 26250. That is frequency 12589, symbol rate 26250. Polarization horizontal, and join our online community at spectrumtvlive.ng. For further inquiries, please call 0704 158 5642 or 0704 541 7707. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Get ready for the exciting showdown, the biggest names, the toughest competition, and the most thrilling moments. From the gridiron to hardwood, and from the pitch to the track. Join us for Sports Central, the most electrifying sports program on television, every weekday from 11 a.m. to 12 noon on Spectrum Television. Sports Central, your home for sports.
Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
Many thanks for staying tuned. This is Spectrum News at 10. Let's move now to a business scene where the federal government and the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN, has reaffirmed their commitment to addressing bottlenecks in Nigeria's export sector, fixing the export expansion grants, and promoting non-oil trade as a key driver of the country's economic growth and development. Speaking at the annual general meeting and public discourse of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Jumoke Odunwole, said that government was determined to resolve the long-standing challenges affecting exporters, particularly those related to the EEG scheme. Odunwole, represented by the Assistant Chief Commercial Officer in the Federal Trade Ministry, Hajara Usman, said the ministry was fully aware of the difficulties confronting exporters and is working with the private sector to find lasting solutions. She added that the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment is strengthening inter-agency coordination to eliminate duplications and reduce bureaucratic bottlenecks. On our health news, the Federal Capital Territory Administration, FCTA, has announced plans to establish an infectious disease hospital, revitalize the FCT molecular laboratory, and advocate for a minimum 15% budgetary allocation to health in line with the Abuja Declaration. The FCTA pledged to implement the primary health care under one roof policy, creates budget lines for core health programs, and pass the FCT health insurance and private health establishment registration and monitoring agency bills. The move forms part of the resolutions reached during the two-day 2025 Health Sector Joint Annual Review and Performance Dialogue held in Abuja, where stakeholders assessed progress and charted new strategies to strengthen the FCT health system in line with the National Health Sector Renewal Initiative investments. A communique jointly signed by the Acting Director General, Hospital Management Board, Dr. Amadu Abubakar, and the Acting Director, Public Health Department, Dr. Dan Gaz-Zama, stated that the review include improved maternal and child health indicators, expanded immunization coverage, reduce HIV incidence, strengthen malaria response, and increase health insurance enrollment. Now to sports, where Agagbe has been appointed head coach of Nigeria Premier Football League NPFL Under-19 team. Agagwe's appointment was announced by Barrow FC. Recall that Agagwe recently joined Barrow FC technical crew. The 2-week NPFL Under-19 camping program has already been opened in Abeokuta, Ogun State. The camping exercise will run from Saturday 4th October to Friday 17th October. Still in sports, Los Angeles Lakers icon LeBron James has been diagnosed with a sciatica and is set to miss the start of the new NBA season. This will be a season No 23 for the 4-time NBA champion and 4-time MVP in the NBA. According to report, he would be sidelined for at least 3 to 4 weeks with the issue. Entertainment news. Nigerian singer Adekunle Gold has spoken about family and priorities, stressing that his wife Simi and daughter Adejare are the center of his life. The oriented hitmaker emphasized that he can afford but not a felt father and husband. Featuring in a podcast, Adekunle stated that one of his greatest goals is to give his daughter a better life than his parents gave him growing up, sharing that one of his songs is inspired by his determination to be a better father to his daughter. Last in the news at this hour, Afrobeats singer Macaulay has claimed that the Nigerian music industry is becoming boring. There's also hitmaker promised to spice up African music soon. This is coming after another Nigerian singer, Slim Case, expressed concern over the country's music industry, claiming that Afrobeat artists' sounds were becoming boring. The Shaku Shaku Chrono urged Afrobeats to release less music to beat excitement and anticipation for their releases. He claimed that the constant release of songs among the Afrobeat stars was killing the genre. And that's all we have for you at this time. To ensure to follow us on social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. You have been watching Spectrum News at 10. I am Emedion James. Thank you for watching.